Welcome to the last day of the onX Build Challenge road trip. Today, one team will secure their spot to represent onX Offroad on this year's Ultimate Adventure.
Ultimate Adventure is all predicated around the idea of taking a vehicle that can tackle hardcore off-road trails and not using a truck and trailer to get there. That is the spirit of what we're doing here. We are building trucks that are able to tackle hard trails. We are not using trucks and trailers to get it to these places. And this makes it so much more challenging, which is why Ultimate Adventure is so fun to watch.
Over the last few days, our teams have tested their builds from Moab into Colorado. They've had to remove drive shafts and shocks and even set up their camp blindfolded. But today, it's all about how well these builds can handle some of the hardest off-road trails in Montrose, Colorado. All right, everybody, we are now in beautiful Montrose, Colorado, and this is your final challenge. Now, last night I told you that we were going to be running 2 trails, and you had to use the 3D function of the onX Offroad app to basically scout out those trails and give me the number of times that you're going to winch. And then you are allowed to bet how many votes you want to try to win in this challenge with a maximum bet of 5,000 votes. So we'll start right here with Rudy. Rudy, how many votes and how many winches?
I'm gonna bet 5,000 votes for 2 winches.
2 winches, excellent. Okay, I'll go to Colt since he's driving. Colt, how many?
2 winches, 5,000 votes.
Perfect, and then Nate?
Same.
2 winches, 5,000 votes. All right, let's see how you guys do. Let's hit the trail.
Pulled sway bars, pulled that lower control arm bolt to make the front be able to twist a little easier.
I think the other teams built some awesome rigs. I feel like we have all 3 have really stepped up to build cool vehicles from where they started.
Both of the other trucks are really well put together. They're both really tall. When you're in those really big rocks, being tall is like, it's a secret weapon. And so there's gonna be a lot of stuff where we're gonna be rubbing belly pan and it's not even gonna be close for them.
Truthfully, I am not worried about this rig at all. I think we aren't going to be able to drive it as hard as some of the guys, but at the same time, if we're driving it slow and steady, not really binding up the steering, then hopefully we don't break any parts. This truck is probably one of the most durable rigs on the planet. So if we break it this week, then we are doing something wrong.
So here's our first real trail of the day. We are in Montrose. This is Scratch and Dent Trail. It's not a real hard trail. There's basically just a little wash we're gonna drive through. There's gonna be one big obstacle at the end. Ironically, everyone bet the same number of winch pulls, all for the maximum 5,000 votes. So this day is gonna really progress. I think we might get her to Scratch and Dent with no winch pulls. So it'll really come down to calamity to see what happens in there. That trail is actually just a little bit harder. This is the end of Scratch and Dent Trail. It's the only real hard obstacle on this trail, and it earns its name.
Honestly, the Land Cruiser has been blowing me away. And Scratch and Dent, it did awesome. Nothing fell off. I didn't need to break out any tools.
Door there. Just barely kissed the door a little bit.
But I did ding up a door pretty dang good.
Kissed the passenger rear door pretty hard, but that's kind of part of wheeling in a full-size, well, a full-bodied rig. But look at this thing. It's like a stock truck that's over here looking like a ramp champ.
You know, I've been looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to actually putting it on and trying it out. You know, we were able to take the buggy line in Moab that nobody else did. but I definitely wanted to get in here and see what this thing could do, and it's doing great. So boulder crawling is what I love. I live in South Dakota. We got a lot of boulder crawling, so I love the fact that you can just go around, pick your lines, work your way through stuff, and see where it goes. Scratch and dent went really well for us. I think we rolled through it without any issues, so it was short and sweet, and it was a fun trail.
Just all those late nights working on it, making sure I could get here, it actually feels amazing to be out here on the trail, seeing what it can do, and it can do a lot. Going up this, I guess this is the hardest obstacle on Scratch and Dent Trail. I know Nate touched a little bit there. Colt's narrow enough, he didn't, but I am the widest of the bunch. We found the dent and scratch part. Yes, we did. And we picked up after ourselves.
All the teams made it cleanly through Scratch and Dent without having to winch a single time, which means that they all have 2 winch pulls to use on our next trail, Calamity. At the beginning of Calamity, we found an alternate route and decided to wager some votes to see who could get up it. So that part over there is an alternate exit. But that got us to thinking. I mean, we're ahead of schedule, we're having fun. What if the house, being me, what if I offered 2,000 votes if someone can drive up it and down it with no winch? Are all the drivers in on this?
Game.
Game. It doesn't go against, if you have to winch, it doesn't go against you. There's no losers, it's only winners if you go up without winching, and then we'll just drive right back down it. First to try the alternate route was Colt in the Smoke Show S10.
I was really happy that I spent the time to put the Yukon axle shafts and things like that in, because if I wouldn't have had a locker and I wouldn't have had strong axles, I don't know if I'd have made it.
Colt is the tallest of all of us. He's the longest of all of us. I think he has the smallest body out of all of us, and that recipe, but when it comes to a place like this where you're trying to eat rocks, it far exceeded what it should be able to do. I mean, it was amazing out here.
Give me that 2,000, please.
With Colt now 2,000 votes richer, Nate takes the Dreamsicle up this alternate exit.
So these Toyota Land Cruiser LX 450s, they come with really good suspension right out of the gate. It's a 5-link rear and a radius arm front setup.
Suspension is mostly stock. I beefed up like lower control arms, make sure they can take a hit from a rock.
All we had to do was shove some plastic spacers in to get a little bit of lift out of it, bolt on some shocks, and the thing is dialed in.
A giant upgrade in the way this rides and handles was the Fox shocks. Getting rid of those completely factory 1997 Lexus shocks and upgrading those to a Fox shock was giant. Not only in the ride quality, but I've got a little bit more down travel. All the suspension geometry matches perfect with these shocks, and it's a really nice combo. This Lexus or Land Cruiser 80 series comes with really good axles from the factory. They're not great axles, but they're really good. So I upgraded the axle shafts. We've got Yukon ring and pinions, went to 529 gear sets, added some air lockers, and just built them out in a way that they can handle what we're gonna be throwing at them this week.
When I first saw this rig, it already had the 39s on it and it had the Method bead grips. The bead grips are far and away the best non-beadlock wheel on the market. I have run these on multiple rigs. I've run them down to like 3 PSI and never popped a tire off the rim.
Like, this still fits in my garage. We can take it to the grocery store and we can take it on hard off-road trails. And so I like the fact that they're not beadlocks. They're a little bit lighter. They still stick to the bead really well. I'm a giant fan of Warn winches. I chose this one specifically, and to be completely honest, the winch doesn't come out of our budget because this is something that's required for UA. I could have put any winch on here, but I went with one of their less expensive variants because it was lighter, it was cheaper, and I felt like using a less expensive quality winch in this build plays more to the spirit of what this competition is all about. A tried and true model to making a high quality off-road truck is to pull whatever's out of it and stuff 1 tons in it. And I've done that with many builds. I'm gonna do that in many more builds on my channel. But with this one, I felt like it had good enough bones, and it's what attracted me to it.
My favorite part about this build, I think, is the fact that it is still basically a stock truck. Any one of you could go out and find a rig like this. I actually owned one of these back in the day for the same reason.
I really like the fact that I've been able to retain so much of the factory elements, and I feel like that's gonna give me a slight advantage in the fact that it's gonna have that like factory level reliability.
Make sure you check out the onX Offroad Elite membership so you can unlock some of the best discounts from some of the biggest names in the off-road aftermarket.
We had all the traction we needed. The tires were gripping really well. The steering is amazingly light. This is still stock steering box. Like, I haven't done any hydro assist or any of that. So like, a lot of the parts were working really well. Brakes were a little overwhelmed for sure.
That wedge notch on the right that I believe Cole went up, we were about to like either break a steering knuckle or wipe out the whole right front fender. So that was kind of a bad, like, not really gonna happen in this rig. So we tried the like just step ledges to the left. We got front tires up it. It was peeling and doing its thing, but then the lower links in the rear were getting hung up.
We're coming out.
Coming out! After Nate taps out near the top, Rudy tries to squeeze the rad charger up. But after getting his front tires in the obstacle, it was pretty obvious that this truck was not going to fit. He backed out of the tight squeeze that was just the entrance. So our bonus line challenge only benefited one team, even though all 3 gave it a shot. Bleepin' Jeep now has an additional 2,000 extra votes. The competitors continue down the trail, but it's not long before Calamity begins to test every aspect of these trucks.
Well, as opposed to Scratch and Dent was like, there was a lot of dirt road, just a couple obstacles basically. Calamity, you get into it right away. And it's super fun, it's very technical. You gotta be focused on what you're doing, especially when you're in a full-bodied rig, not buggies.
Back in the day, I actually used to spot in rock crawling competitively. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of people holding on to cars, but I do set myself up, if I am, to escape it quickly. And in that case, it was just trying to help save his window. I didn't want to see him blow that thing out. I leg pressed a Land Cruiser is what I did.
Hello, little rock. Oh. Ow. There it is. Ow.
With a full size, you gotta go wheeling knowing that you're bigger and bigger hits things.
Towards the end of Calamity, Nate has to use his first winch pull on the steep ledge that he's trying to get up.
It's been a long time, but my friends and I, have used spare tires in the past as a stepping stone to get up and over obstacles whenever you're real desperate. So that's what I did. I pulled the spare tire out, used it as a stepping stone, and got myself in a little bit better position to winch so I didn't like just take the whole side off the truck with a rock or something.
So from what I can see, we have two major obstacles left. I have yet to winch, and I have 2 winches for this trail. Now Nate just went, it was a full winch fest. I'm gonna put tires on it and see how it does, but who knows. I was trying to talk Nate into a line, but they didn't want to listen. I didn't really know what to do, so I let them do their thing. and then I tried the line that I thought would probably work the best, and it actually worked out. I was completely unsure if it would or not, but I just saw it in my head and hoped for the best. I had zero confidence in myself on that, I'll be honest.
Dude,
but I did want that line. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
So good. Way to go, dude. Nice.
That was exactly what I expected in Montrose. There is no trail here that I would rather have anything but a buggy on.
I just spun my rock out. I gotta pull winch. Yeah.
The Rad Charger unfortunately has to pull cable for the first time on this obstacle.
The Land Cruiser did really well. We had to pull cable. We've had to use my spare tire as a stepping stone to get up and over some obstacles. But you know, these other builds are amazing, and this little Land Cruiser has been keeping up with them all week. We bet 5,000 votes for 2 winch pulls. We did 3 winch pulls. I don't know if that means anything. Do I not get points? Do I lose points? Does Colt get all my points? I have no idea at this point, but that's what happened. We're out, and the thing, it runs, it drives, it's not overheating. I'm pumped. I'm pumped that it's gonna drive back on the trailer instead of it be some huge ordeal to fix stuff and all that. Hopefully the other 2 are gonna be able to make it up without issue as well. And in fact, I need to stop talking so we can go check out what Colt's doing.
It's been a tight race with all 3 of us. I do hope that we win. I really do want to go on Ultimate Adventure. That is something I've always wanted to do. And I tried to build a rig that was capable of that. The exit of this trail is insane. I mean, it's buggy territory here. The last 2 obstacles are very legit.
At the very end of the trail, Colt has to winch over the last obstacle. But since he didn't winch twice like he bet, he saves his 5,000 votes, but doesn't win any extras.
So, like this whole competition, I was having problems with my fuel injection system, and I had just popped out my passenger side taillight on an obstacle down there. Everyone had already gone up the hill, so like there wasn't any real good winch points. And since I already broke both taillights, kind of smashed in both sides of the rig, I figured, what more is there to lose? And I was on the obstacle a couple times and it just wasn't going. I couldn't get it to rev up and bump it good enough. So I said, let's do it. Put it in neutral, revved her up, dropped her into gear, and we rock hopped that thing. And it didn't work. We ended up having to winch. I broke not really even on the last obstacle, it was the second to last, but it was close enough that I was able to run one winch line out all the way to the top of the hill with probably like an 8-foot extension. But the rule was, if you can get it winched in one go without unspooling and removing line extensions, then it would count as one winch. So I hooked up and I just followed the winch line all the way to the top. The real damage lies underneath with the rear axle. When I pretty much jumped it up that obstacle, when I came back down, all that weight was on that rear axle, and I just spun axle tubes out of the axle housing. I came down on my passenger side pretty hard, and it severed the line for my shock reservoir to my shock. It twisted axle tubes, and my leaf springs are all gnarly, and I'm probably the only guy that can't drive home right now.
With all of the vehicles out of the trail, this ends the onX Build Challenge road trip, and this is how our vote tally looks like now. Team Bleep and Jeep has won a total of 8,000 additional votes. Team Rad Charger was able to pull into second place with 3,033 votes after winning the winch challenge on Calamity. And Team Dumpster Fire / Dreamsicle unfortunately winched 3 times, so they lost their votes on the trail today, meaning that they are now in the hole minus 2,710 votes. So that's a wrap for the onX Offroad Build Challenge road trip. If you want to tackle the same route and trails that our challengers took on during the onX Offroad Build Challenge road trip, make sure to download the route from onX Offroad, and you can tackle the same trails and highways as all the competitors.